So hi everyone, I'm Cynthia from Empower to Free. Welcome to today's session of Is Finding Meaningful Work Important? So thanks for coming, and today with me I have here Michelle from Kampung Kakis. So why don't we begin with Michelle, you telling us a bit about yourself and what you do in the social service sector.
Sure. Thanks, Cynthia, for this opportunity to share. And hi, dear, I'm Michelle. Maybe just to introduce myself, I'm working as a medical social worker in Dover Park Hospice as my day job. And after my office hours, I run a ground-up initiative called Kampung Kakis. Actually, it's a neighborhood buddy system that we started in 2020 during the circuit breaker. So the main aim of Kampung Kakis is buddy system that we collect postal codes of Singaporeans all over Singapore, and then we match them based on proximity, about 10 minutes walk. And the main help that the volunteers help the seniors is mainly like buying of groceries, helping to bring them for their medical appointments, checking on them to ensure that they are safe. So most of our seniors, they are socially isolated. So we have about 500 seniors and households that we are supporting so far island-wide, and we have about 2,000 volunteers to date. Yeah, so that's the gist of what Kampung Kakis do.
So Michelle, do you want to share a bit more about this course and what made you start up Kampung Kakis and do the work that you are doing?
Yeah, so actually Kampung Kakis actually started by me, myself, and two other friends. So one of my friends, she's actually a COVID survivor in 2020. So at that time, the vaccines were not available yet. So she kind of like brainstormed this idea of helping seniors who are socially frail with no family support in their social environment. And she herself, she also has elderly parents as well. So we thought it'd be helpful if we can empower neighbors to step up as a pair of safety eyes, extra pair of hands and eyes to ensure that the seniors are kept safe in the community, because at that time, a lot of them are very fearful of going out to run errands and things like that. And then the government at that time, they also introduced like safe entry. So things like that is like technology wise is very foreign for the seniors who are not tech savvy. So this idea came about, and I actually met her when I was like distributing masks to to the residents nearby. So that's how we came together with another friend, Denise. So the three of us, we actually came together and first started in our own neighborhood at Jurong West, and then within about 2 months we garnered about 500 volunteers island-wide. So these volunteers, we are very thankful that they are also very they're very happy to also step up to help seniors in need nearby their neighborhood. Yeah.
What makes you interested to help the elderly?
Yeah, so for me, actually from young, I've always been very inclined towards the elderly population. And also like serving the seniors is something very close to my heart that I'm very passionate about as well. I would say like because I'm from young, I'm very close to my grandparents as well. So naturally, I think I'm more drawn to like supporting the seniors. And also I find that Singapore, as we evolve, I find that families dynamics have changed. Like a lot of their adult children, they are not based in Singapore. So like even though they have adult children, but a lot of them are not emotionally close to their family as well. So I think like empowering the community is also very important, so that we keep these seniors safe and supported in the community. Yeah.
Michelle, I understand that you have some slides and also a video to show us. Do you want to do that now?
Oh, okay. I can share my screen.
Yes, I made you the co-host.
May, a resident in Gekpoville, had returned from overseas when the government requested Singaporeans to return home. She was diagnosed with COVID-19 and was hospitalized in March. When she recovered, she wanted to pay it forward to the community, thankful for the care that she had received. She did not wish others, especially the seniors, the pain that she had gone through. she approached Michelle, the chairperson of Hong Kong North Zone 7 Residents Network, together with her friend Denise, gave birth to the Kampung Kakis. Kampung meaning village, and Kakis meaning good buddy in Malay, with a simple hope to support the elderly, lower-income families, and vulnerable residents during the COVID-19 crisis. They brought the idea and shared their concept to the Great Powell CCMC and Free Residence Networks. It was a concept based on a buddy system where volunteers and beneficiaries are matched. With the help of the residence networks, they reached out to the residents who may need food and necessities, home-based learning support, who may not be aware of the availability of community resources, while residents interested in volunteering could sign up on a separate link. They placed posters on the notice boards and translated them into 4 languages and set up a hotline in the CC. They also tapped on social media, Facebook, WhatsApp, telegrams of the Gigpo CC and residence networks. In expanding their outreach, they leveraged on a network of partners and technology. And in leveraging technology, they collected postal codes where volunteers signed up, using the power of Google Maps and application programming interface to match the volunteers with the beneficiaries. Within 2 months, Kampung Kakis have 600 resident volunteers and more than 10 partners. Bringing back the gotong royong spirit of many helping hands within the community, of neighbors providing a listening ear, buying groceries and running errands for the vulnerable residents during COVID-19 times. This shows that people can really do a lot more within their power to help people around them.
Okay. Yeah. So Cynthia, maybe I continue to share my slides.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Yeah. So that's the gist of what we do in Kampung Kakis. So yeah, we're a neighborhood buddy system. So we emerged in 2020 so far. So sorry, the screen is okay, right?
It's getting a little blocked, but maybe Michelle, at the same time as you talk about Kampung Kakis, right? I'm also curious. You being a medical social worker, how does that help you in your Kampung Kaki work?
Yeah, so I would say it's very interlinked because in social work, we work with a range of population, seniors, families, youths, children. So I would say the skills that I learned from my social work degree has definitely helped me tremendously in what I do in Kampung Kakis, because we're dealing with like social issues, social isolation. So this is actually the bread and butter of social work lah. Yeah. So I'm quite thankful for what I learned through my time in studying social work, which can be applied in what I do in Kampung Kakis as well. Yeah.
And pardon my ignorance, right? What's the difference between a medical social worker and a social worker?
Okay. So a medical social worker, mainly we work in a hospital-based setting. So we work closely with the doctors, nurses, and other allied health professionals like the OT, PT, dietitians, speech therapists, things like that. Yeah. And a social worker, mainly they are based in the community. So the medical term is mainly based for social workers who are based in the healthcare system lah.
I see. And so when you work on Kampung Kaki, do you also often bring that lens in towards helping the elderly?
Yeah, I think it's very helpful because in medical social work, right, actually we adopt this lens called the biopsychosocial approach. So bio meaning the biological part of patients, psycho meaning the psychological aspect, and the social aspect, which is their social environment, the family, the friends, the community. Yeah, so I think it has helped me in terms of having a more holistic landscape. Yeah.
So we do have a few minutes before I open up the floor for Q&A. So maybe, Michelle, if you like, you can share more about the slides as well.
Sure. Okay. So I'll move on. Yeah, so why we started, because these are some of the challenges that we face during circuit breaker. So we know that a lot of agencies and the RCs, they had to stop operating because like face-to-face interaction was not encouraged. And then at the time when the vaccines were not available, we know that the fatality risk for seniors is definitely higher lah. Yeah, so we also noticed that there were a lot of seniors who are not tech savvy. So it's very foreign and alienating for them to download things like safe entry, things like that. And then like a lot of government stat boards like CPF, HDB agencies, you can't go in unless you make an online booking. So this can be very threatening for the seniors lah. Yeah, and then we know there's home-based learning. No children, they have to stay home, and then some of them they might not have the digital gadgets to help support them in their learning, like laptops, etc. And we also have Singaporeans who are based overseas with their elderly parents in Singapore, and they are unable to come back. So we help to equip these seniors with digital skills by matching them with a volunteer who can teach them how to do FaceTime, WhatsApp video, voice recording, things like that. Yeah, and definitely, you know, the circuit breaker regulations, we also observe there's a lot of like mental health related issues because people are socially isolated. And I think as humans, we are all social creatures, no, not having that social connection is definitely very damaging to our mental health. Yeah.
So as a medical social worker, right, and I'm just curious, and you mentioned this just now about the biological, sociological, and social framework. As a medical social worker, would you say that someone going into the field of medicine needs to be aware of these three elements?
Yeah, I would say that's the bread and butter because being in a medical setting, the doctors and the nurses, they use very no medical terms, and sometimes the medical aspect of the patient, right, it actually affect their psychosocial well-being as well. Yeah, so a lot of times we need to get used to the medical jargons, things like that, so that we can work closely with the medical professionals in terms of like formulating a care plan for the patient. Yeah, but for me myself, I used to be based in the wards, but over the past 3 years, I'm based in home care. So I actually travel around to see patients who prefers to pass on at home lah. So the main patient that I'm caring for, they are actually terminally ill patients with end-stage cancer or end-stage organ failure, as well as advanced dementia.
Wow. So Michelle, in your day job as a medical social worker and your extra job as a co-founder, what do you think the different skills that you are required to use?
Sorry, what are the different
skills that you use in each job, or what are the similar skills that you use in both the jobs?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty similar because what I learned in social work, it takes a lot of like assessment of the social environment of the patients, and we call them beneficiaries in Kampung Kakis. So a lot of times I will do like assessment of the support that the patients and the beneficiaries have, and then from there I work with different community partners, both in the hospice and in Kampung Kakis. I work with like the different social agencies like family service centers, the CCs, the RCs, and other like government organizations like AIC. Yeah, AIC, the Silver Generation Office, all these community partners to come up with a care plan to support the patients and the beneficiaries so that they are safe and supported in the community. So like you see a lot of like news article recently on like single elderly, passing away at home alone, and then nobody really found out until like months ago, things like that. So like social isolation is really something very close to my heart. So in terms of like my hospice work and Kampung Kakis work, I come across a lot of seniors who are socially isolated, and they really needed that extra layer of community support. to support them at home. Yeah. So I would say that's pretty similar. And in terms of the care plan wise, we work a lot with all these different agencies lah.
So I'm sure you get this a lot as a young person who is so passionate about the elderly, right? How do you connect with them? Like, is there the generation gap or anything that makes it harder for you to do your job?
Yeah, sometimes I would say it's pretty hard because a lot of my patients, they are like in their 80s, 90s. My oldest patient is like 105. Yeah, so sometimes they would like say, there's this saying like 我吃盐比你吃米多. Who are you to come and lecture me what to do? So a lot of times I try to overcome this challenge by taking a learner's approach. In terms of me coming in, telling them what to do, and putting things in place for them. I try to put myself in their shoes, and also adopting that learner's hat, just asking the seniors, the patients, inviting them to share their experiences. I think that helps in terms of like closing the generation gap. And I would say personally, I'm very interested in like the life history of these seniors. So a lot of times, if when you are curious, they tend to be very happy to share. So I think that helps to break the ice as well, in terms of connecting with the elderly population.
What were some of the skills you had to pick up on the job? Because I would imagine one of them might be language, because you probably have patients and beneficiaries from all dialects, all races. How do you engage or interact or communicate with them?
Yeah, so language definitely is a huge barrier. So I try to get the help of the family members to help translate. That helps. And also like getting volunteers. We have volunteers in the hospice and in Kampung Kakis as well. So I try to get someone to help me translate whenever I face any language barrier. Yeah, so that helps me a lot. And also, going back to the learner's approach again, when I don't understand a certain the meaning of what they are trying to put across, I get them to explain to me in the language that I know.
That must be quite fun. Okay, so I'm just mindful of time. Divya, do you have any questions for Michelle?
Yeah, so you're a medical social worker, so I was just wondering what like really pushed you to, do what you do, and because I'm in high school right now, and I know that in the future, whatever job that I do, start, I want to do something that helps people that, genuinely need help, people that are from lower socioeconomic, backgrounds, and people that, maybe can't afford it, or people that don't have access. So what really pushed you to be, part of this mission?
Yeah. So dear, for me personally, right, I'm more specialized in the hospice setting. So, a lot of times like the word hospice comes to mind, right? People like associate it with a lot of negativity, like a place of abandonment. So for me, right, when I graduated, I know that I wanted to go to a hospice because I want to change the perception of aging, of elderly, of being sick and frail. So I think that's what that pushed me towards pursuing a career mainly in the hospice setting. Yeah, so I guess for you, you can explore, what kind of values that connects with you the most, and talk to different people in terms of the career routes that you're interested in, and then from there you get a better sense of what drives you and what kind of areas or aspects that you are passionate about.
Yeah. And also, obviously, social workers, it's a very mentally rewarding career. But I was wondering financially, would you say financially it's a good career? Because obviously you do want to help people, but at the end of the day, you also want to provide for yourself.
Yeah, I would say compared to my seniors 10 years ago and now, I think career as a social worker has definitely changed a lot. Yeah, I think in terms of the salary, right, if you compare like 10 years ago and now, the starting pay for graduates is definitely comparable to like other fields of graduates like engineering, business, things like that. It's definitely comparable. You can actually go to like NCSS website, National Council of Social Service. You just Google like social worker salary, and then you can get a benchmark of the salary range.
Okay. Yeah. And I am in year 12 and I do want to do medicine in university, right? And I was wondering that if I wanted to go into the social services sector, right, would I have to also pursue a degree in social services, or would like, medicine be enough?
I would say in the social service sector, there's a lot of different routes. Some of them like pursue psychology, some like sociology. Yeah, so it really depends on what areas that you are more inclined towards. But in terms of medicine wise, I would say it's definitely very specialized, and it's a very human kind of a job. You are really exposed to many different kinds of specialty during your training. And I'll say from what I know from my doctor's colleagues, it's definitely a very rigorous track lah. Yeah. So you talk to different people, and then you can get a better sense of the groundwork, or you can actually write into different social agencies as well to ask for like shadowing or observing of what the role of a social worker is like. So I think that's possible, and you can explore that opportunities as well.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
So maybe
So
maybe I'll add on to what Divya asked, right? And maybe Michelle, maybe you can share some light on this. So we do have other speakers or friends in the social service sector who say that when they compare social service sector to other sectors, obviously the pay is not as great as like say banking and engineering, even though yes, social service sector has come a long way since 10 years ago, but comparing sector to sector, there's still a big difference. I'm wondering, how do you feel about that? Like with the social service sector, do you feel that people who come in here must want to do good, and that pay difference is how we do good?
I would say for me, personally, the pay wise is definitely a bonus, but for me, I really know what I wanted to do when I was in university. So I guess for me, definitely passion and interest will outweigh that salary factor, because for me personally, I know that if I'm going to be in a job for the next 20 years of my life, I want something that I'm interested about, so that it's sustainable for me. And if my mind is not congruent with what I want, right? So I feel like every day is a dread. So I think that kind of helped me to have more clarity in what I want to pursue for my career.
And now that you've been in this career for a while, I'm guessing that every day you probably learn something new and all that. Would you say that for someone who is having a career progression in this sector, what might be some of the additional qualifications or studying that might help them?
For social work wise, definitely not pursuing the master's program is definitely a bonus lah for you to gain more progression in your career track. Yeah, but I would say like besides that, besides furthering your education, you can still like explore further ways to progress in terms of like expanding your portfolio in the respective agency you are in. Talk to your supervisors, know what you are interested in about, and take the initiative and leadership to do something more beyond your comfort zone. I think that will also help to push you further to have more career progression as well.
And could you share maybe a tip or advice for someone new coming into the social service sector?
I would say at first it will be very overwhelming, and a lot of times you will wonder why you do the things that you do in the first place. Yeah, so but don't be afraid, be comfortable in trying to take that step. Yeah, and talk to different people, get support from your seniors. And yeah, just if you find yourself being stuck, then you have to ask yourself again, why do you choose this path in the first place? Yeah, I think that helps for me a lot.
Thanks a lot, Michelle. We are coming to the end of the session. So Divya, do you have any other questions for Michelle?
No, I don't.
Okay, maybe Michelle, my next question is, could you share with us one of your fondest memories that keeps you going in this sector?
Yeah, so for me, the patients I work with are usually like very terminally ill, right? But I do have very young patients as well. My youngest patient is a very young mother. She's only like 30 years old, and then she has a very young children in primary school. Yeah, so unfortunately, her cancer is actually at the very late stage already. So my role comes in whereby I support the children in terms of trying to help them to accept the reality of the mom's impending death. Yeah, so this is something very close to my heart as well, because my role here actually is to really help journey with the family members until the very end. So I know that every word I say, every action that I do, it actually makes a significant impact on the family in terms of their future life journey as well. Yeah, so these are some of the difficult cases that I work with on a daily basis.
And hearing you share, right, in these two sessions is that your work is so emotionally draining. It takes a lot of you. How do you prevent burnout?
Yeah, so what I do is, for certain patients, they actually outlive their prognosis. Sometimes, in the hospital, the doctors say they are only left with 3 months. But actually, I witness a lot of patients with a lot of willpower, and it actually outlive their prognosis. Some of them are actually still around, and it's been like 2-3 years already. Yeah, so when you journey with them for such a long period of time and they eventually pass on, it really gets to me. So I actually cope by crying. I also have my own personal closure as well. Like I do journaling as well. So I journal my learning journey with the patients as well in terms of what are the teachings and values that they impart to me. Yeah, so I have my own way of self-care and my own way of remembering the patient. Yeah, so other than that, I have a very supportive team in the hospice. Yeah, so whenever I feel like I'm on the verge of like breaking down, I talk to my supervisors. Yeah, and then we process it together. So it helps me to know that I'm not alone in this helping journey as well. Yeah.
And maybe, Michelle, the next question I have for you is, right now you're handling two pretty heavy jobs, right? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Yeah. So yeah, I would say it's quite difficult for me to balance my time equally in terms of like my Kampung Kakis work and my day job. But I'm very thankful that actually my boss is very understanding. She knows of the groundwork that I'm doing. Yeah, so actually in the next 5 years, we are actually planning to we already registered Kampung Kakis as a formal charity. So in the next 5 years, I hope to be able to see what I can do to further expand Kampung Kakis, because I felt that this is a very meaningful project that is very close to my heart as well, that I really want to further develop further in the community. And also yeah, we never know when is the next pandemic again. So yeah, in the next 5 years, well, something that we want to further expand Kampung Kakis as well.
And I think it's not just about pandemic, right? Because you also mentioned a lot about how the elderly these days have social isolation. I mean, even without the pandemic, you brought up points around the digital evolution and then how the elderly is not able to kind of catch up. all the statutory agencies needing everyone now to go digital, right? Like even with my parents, I can imagine them SingPass, they don't know what to do, they call me. CDP don't know what to do, they call me. And so I do think that with Kampung Kakis, the work you do goes beyond the pandemic. There's actually a lot of impact you can make just by providing that sense of community and non-isolation. Yeah. So before we go, maybe I will just ask Michelle to conclude with this last question, right? So Michelle, why is finding meaningful work so important?
Yeah, I would say personally for me, finding meaning in everything that you do is really important because, from there, you will find yourself being purposeful in terms of what you do. So every day I will kind of reflect on the things I do on a daily basis, and it actually helps to put in more meaning for me as well. So that helps a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So thanks a lot, Divya, for coming along. Michelle has a next session at 7:30, so feel free to come back if you have more questions. If not, there are also other speakers that you can kind of sit in on to listen to their stories. Thank you.
Thank you.